WBC belt that has included Ali, the greatest of all time. They are set and ready to answer who's the greatest of right now. Wilder, Fury 2, here we go.
So the WBC has Teofimo as the franchise champion in the lightweight division, and we have Devin Haney as the WBC champion. So for the WBC, he is the undisputed champion, and Haney is also the champion. And now we have Ryan Garcia in the mix. So it is a
confusing situation created by the WBC and their insistence on watering down the sport of boxing for personal gain. Because that franchise status, that designation, which was created exclusively by the WBC.
It's not a world title.
And it's not recognized by the other alphabet organizations, the WBO, the WBA, and the IBF. That was Mauricio Suleiman, WBC president, who made an appearance on Boxing Voice and discussed the situation at lightweight and continued to confuse the average fight fan. He failed to define just who the real undisputed champion in the lightweight division is because,
it's not up to him.
If I'm being honest, there isn't one. I give Teofimo Lopez all the credit in the world for doing what Gervonta Davis did not. I view Teofimo Lopez as being a more proven fighter than Devin Haney, a more proven fighter than Ryan Garcia, a more proven fighter than Gervonta Davis. I view Teofimo Lopez as the leader of the new school, but what I don't view him as is an undisputed champion, because that's what he is. It's a very simple, clear-cut matter. Vasyl Lomachenko, in essence, surrendered his world title to Devin Haney before he even fought Teofimo Lopez. That's just the truth of it. That's just a simple matter of fact. Vasyl Lomachenko was not in possession of the WBC title, the world title, at the time he fought Teofimo Lopez. Thus, he didn't lose it to him. He might have lost his franchise status, his franchise designation, a designation that has no lineage, has no history, but what he didn't lose was the world title. The world title was already forfeited to Devin Haney, his then mandatory challenger, the then WBC interim champion.
Which is why he was elevated to full champion.
A lot of people might want to be in denial about it, but that's how and why that happened. You know, very recently, Canelo Alvarez decided to fight for the WBC's world title in the super middleweight division, having already been a franchise champion, the inaugural franchise champion, the Feist. But Canelo Alvarez so decided that that wasn't enough. He wanted the actual world title because he knows, like I know, like you know, in order for him to actually become the super middleweight division's undisputed champion, franchise status simply won't do. He needs the world title in order to achieve undisputed status. Moreover,
the other alphabets have to recognize it.
In order to become the undisputed champion at a given weight, the other alphabets, the other sanctioning bodies, they have to recognize whatever version of the WBC title we're talking about. And what they don't recognize is the franchise designation. You can go to any one of their websites, and they'll have Devin Haney registered as the WBC's champion, not Teofimo Lopez.
Because franchise ain't a real world title.
And his franchise status with the WBC is what Vasyl Lomachenko lost to Teofimo Lopez, not the WBC world title. He had already forfeited the WBC world title before he even fought Teofimo.
It's not up to me and you to define what an undisputed champion is.
This isn't a matter of opinion. It's a simple matter of fact, a matter of fact that remains a matter of fact regardless of what Mauricio Suleiman wants to tell the boxing fans and the Boxing Voice.
What?
Teofimo isn't undisputed. Oh, he might be unified, and he might be the Ring Magazine champion, and the lineal lightweight champion. Those things he is, but what he isn't is the undisputed lightweight champion.
That's not up to Mauricio or the WBC to decide.
Or me or you. The definition for an undisputed champion, what that is, what that entails, it's pretty clear-cut. It's a clear-cut matter, straight to the point. There are a lot of people out there that don't recognize Devin Haney's status as a reigning world champion. They view him as anything but an email champion, a paper champion. They think he's untested. They think he is unproven. I'll tell you what, though. Whatever he is, it is as a direct result of Vasyl Lomachenko forfeiting his world title for a made-up designation by way of the WBC. Devin Haney don't get to pick up the WBC world title unless Vasyl Lomachenko throws it in the air.
And that's what he did.
Forfeit the world title, the one you need to become undisputed. Forfeit that title for a designation by way of the WBC. No number of panelists on YouTube channels. No singular president of an alphabet organization, let alone the WBC.
Right.
No disgruntled fanboys' anecdotes are going to change the fact that Vasyl Lomachenko was not in possession of the WBC's world title at the time he fought Teofimo Lopez. Thus, he didn't lose it to him. And he didn't lose it to him because he had already forfeited it.
He already left it vacant.
Now, in spite of how complex and convoluted all of this has become, there's a simple solution that can rectify all of this. There is.
Spill it!
Teofimo Lopez can simply fight Devin Haney and beat him. That would easily rectify the situation. It only becomes complex when over-enthusiastic fanboys want to justify Lopez not fighting Haney, whilst at the same time berating Devin for something that Vasyl Lomachenko and Top Rank caused to happen. They asked for franchise status. They petitioned for that designation. And that's what got the ball rolling on this whole jackpot. But this can easily be remedied. This can easily be rectified if Teofimo Lopez fights Devin Haney. And last I checked, Teofimo Lopez hasn't left the lightweight division.
So make the fight!
Well, I'm sure that most of you have heard by now, per tweet from Michael Benson, in a remarkable 4-hour Barbershop Conversations interview, Tyson Fury's trainer, Sugar Hill Steward, has been grilled by Deontay Wilder fans over quote-unquote cheating allegations. Bizarre viewing at times.
Bizarre. That's one way to put it.
You know that it's been almost a year since Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury's last outing. It's been almost a year since that rematch.
Wow.
It's been about approximately 11 months.
I'm still crying about that shit?
Sugar Hill Steward, the trainer of Tyson Fury, for reasons that are unknown to me, decided to address Wilder's adoring fans, Wilder's public, on one of Wilder's propaganda channels, Barbershop Conversations. I don't know exactly what Sugar Hill Steward was thinking. Perhaps he didn't realize what kind of people he'd be talking to and what kind of people he'd be dealing with. Maybe he wanted to take it as an opportunity to deal with the public head-on and address these allegations in a civilized and adult, mature manner. But I reiterate, I don't think Sugar Hill Steward knew what he was in for. I don't think he knew what kind of people he'd be dealing with.
So he ends up getting interrogated by a bunch of dime store detectives.
Based on the accusations that Deontay Wilder himself has levied against Tyson Fury, claims of foul play, narratives and conspiracy theories that have been propagated by certain channels here on YouTube. The line of questioning is in keeping with those sensationalist claims.
Still crying about that shit.
Okay. The word is out. Just make that third fight, and I'll see them.
I wish I could make it in the fight.
No. Y'all can make the fight. Stop all that running and hiding shit, and make it happen.
Guy looks like he's about to cry.
Tay Jones, a member of Deontay Wilder's entourage, who, in so many words, is begging them to make the third fight.
Make it happen.
Okay. You talk to your people, I talk to my people.
That's right, and that's right. Talk to your people. Make sure they all on board. When they get knocked off again, this is gonna happen. Believe it. It's gonna believe. Just believe. Yeah, the world want to see it. The world don't want to see no other fight.
Yes, it does. The world wants to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. And because the world wants to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, Eddie Hearn has already begun exploring venue options for what could be a May or June showdown between them. That's what the world wants to see.
There's only one fight that they want to see. Believe.
Anyone from member of Wilder's team to, other YouTube authors and some of Deontay Wilder's fans, core supporters, they essentially interrogated Sugar Hill Steward whilst he decided to make an appearance on Barbershop Conversations channel.
Saying the same old dumb shit.
And there are different angles to this thing. I mean, there really are. You know, the channels here on YouTube that have so decided to propagate this conspiracy theory by way of Deontay Wilder, those channels have very obvious motives, you understand. They are the profiteers of this conspiracy theory. And what they're doing for profit. These sensationalist claims and the headlines to these videos are intended to draw the attention of both, Deontay Wilder's fans and Deontay Wilder's critics.
Clickbait.
Because what they're doing for profit. So their motives are quite obvious and easy to wrap your mind around, easy to understand. But the audience that they're pandering to, these individuals, the ones who actually buy into this stuff,
The ones subscribed to this school of thought.
the ones that so decide to run with whatever narrative gets propagated on these particular YouTube channels, Barbershop Conversations among them.
What is the mental state of these people?
What is the mental state of a grown man who wishes death upon a trainer in the sport of boxing because his favorite fighter lost a boxing match?
I hope Sugar Hill flips his car and dies in a car fire. I just want to say that. That's how I feel.
Okay, Billy Blanks, you don't find that at all excessive? I mean, it's pretty obvious why a YouTube author would continuously propagate a conspiracy theory that brings them a lot of views. They're profiteering from it. It's obvious why they continue to talk up this narrative. And it's even obvious why Tate Jones might be emotionally invested in the career of Deontay Wilder, so much so that he himself is advocating that Wilder be given a third fight. These are all understandable motives. But guys like Drew Titan.
Beating his cornflakes.
What the fuck's wrong with that guy? Your favorite boxer loses a boxing match, and you go postal, you go homicidal, you go wishing death on the other guy's trainer?
Why are you mad?
Let me tell you something. This is a sport of boxing, all right? There's a high probability that most everybody's favorite fighter is going to suffer a loss at some point in their career.
Why are you mad?
The number of boxers that retire from the sport and walk away from it, the fairy tale ending, an unblemished record, that's actually a rarity.
Why are you mad?
I mean, how could you be a connoisseur of this sport and not know that, the way you're flying off the fucking handle just because your favorite fighter suffered his first defeat?
Why are you mad?
I'll tell you why he's mad. Because this guy don't know shit about boxing. To this guy, this isn't about the sport of boxing. It's about him as an individual. He identifies with Deontay Wilder. Thus, when Deontay Wilder is defeated, he also feels defeated.
Because he has a fragile ego.
And because he's insecure, and rest assured, that's what this is, that's what we're looking at, a very, very insecure man. We'll talk about why that is a little later on. Because this individual, his fragile ego, all his insecurities, idolized Deontay Wilder, lived vicariously through him. He can't accept that, the guy lost. It is what it is. It happens. No, it can't be that way. No, it's got to be that the dice were loaded, the punch was spiked.
Here's an Acme anvil in Tyson Fury's gloves.
Well, I guess the JDs must have helped them put it there since he was present while Tyson Fury's hands were being wrapped. All fuckery aside, what we're looking at, what this basically is what happens when an imbalanced individual identifies with a public figure. One must understand that identifying with a public figure, in this instance an athlete, there's nothing wrong with that, There are any variety of reasons to identify with somebody. Perhaps they come from a similar walk of life to you, or, maybe they're from the same place, race or region, ethnicity, what have you. There are any variety of reasons to identify with a public figure. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a basic human trait. It's a basic human element. But when the individual is already imbalanced, you understand.
They go as far as living vicariously through the public figure.
Perhaps the reason that these imbalanced individuals, like a public persona, public figure, an athlete, a little bit too much, is from what is missing in their own lives.
From what's missing upstairs.
They live through the public figure, and that public figure's success is success that they see as their own because they identify with that public figure. Thus, when that public figure falters, they also feel that they have faltered. This denotes a severe detachment with reality, and this comes from a mental fragility. These are guys with fragile egos, and they constantly need validation. They need to be coddled. They need to be reassured.
Because they're insecure.
Guys like this latch on to a Deontay Wilder.
Public figure.
as a security blanket of sorts. I mean, that's really what it is.
A coping mechanism.
They want to feel good about themselves. So they'll look at someone that they identify with and associate that someone's success with themselves, when in reality,
They're not successful.
and that's what they're compensating for. That's what they're coping with.
That's where all these disproportionate responses come from.
Sugar Hill Steward didn't do nothing to this guy, you understand? Sugar Hill Steward was in the opposite corner of Deontay Wilder.
That's it.
And in truth, he didn't do nothing to Deontay Wilder either. But to this guy,
I hope Sugar Hill flips his car and dies in a car fire. I just want to say that. That's how I feel.
oh, he should die in a car fire for being in the opposite corner of Deontay Wilder. That's what should happen. Yeah, that's not excessive at all. You see, to this guy, it's not about boxing. It's about him as an individual. And it's not about Sugar Hill Steward being in the opposite corner of Deontay Wilder. It's that this guy views Sugar Hill Steward as being in the opposite corner of him as an individual.
That's how he looks at it.
He looks at Sugar Hill Steward as the man opposite his corner. He looks at Sugar Hill Steward as his enemy, when in reality, Sugar Hill Steward didn't do nothing to you. He didn't do nothing to Wilder either. Aside from train Tyson Fury to kick his fucking ass, which he did, but that's boxing, and it happens. The well-to-do, even-tempered individual doesn't want to see their favorite fighter get their fucking ass kicked. I mean, it's normal. But when the response to that is this disproportionate, there is clearly something else, something more going on. So allow me to state the obvious. Most of these guys you see running around opting for this sensationalized conspiracy theory are imbalanced individuals, detached with reality. And that's what this kind of behavior accents. Though I don't think any of you needed me to tell you that this guy and anybody like him is one sick fucking puppy.
Those are the kind of people that gravitate towards these conspiracy theories.
And those are the kinds of people that channels like Barbershop Hallucinations preys upon. He knows that all they want is for someone to tell them they'd like to hear. And they'd like to hear that Deontay Wilder was cheated, that he was the victim of a crime, that this is somehow a travesty. That's what they want to hear. But that's not reality. Reality is, he lost the fucking fight, and you can't deal with it.
Because you're a fucking train wreck.
Maybe you need to watch another sport, because psychologically, you clearly can't handle watching this one.